Okay, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our June session. This is our kind of final online session of the 12-month course. So today is kind of chance to really think about, going back through the program, think about where you've got to today. What are the ongoing kind of priorities for you in your role? Think about your accountability partners as well, and potentially where you go next. So we'll have a look at that. The other thing I want to cover today, the final document in our plan that we haven't looked at, is a succession planning document. That's going to be more relevant for some of you than others, but just the structure and the principle of it is quite interesting. So we'll talk about succession planning as well today as we start to think about growing future organizations. That's where this really sits in the program content. So before we get started, just a quick moment to pause and reflect. You will already have been into a number of different things going on for you this morning, I know. So just take a moment to capture anything that's on your mind that you might need to follow up on after our session today. We will finish, I'm aiming to finish at about 10:25 this morning, just so that we kind of get clear for our 10:30 appointments. I've got a train to catch at 10:48, so I'm literally going to dash as soon as we finish this morning's session. But if there's anything on your mind that you need to just capture, just take a moment to capture it. Otherwise, if not, just as usual, take a bit of breathing space. And I'll just remind us of this kind of Shen Buddhism kind of, Zen Buddhism principle, this beginner's mind, just thinking about, I love the idea of kind of going back to the beginning every time, right? What is it that we're looking to achieve? How do we look at this through the lens of a beginner? It can be really valuable. And any key takeaways from today, you've also got your toolkits that you can capture things in. Your succession plan will be in your toolkit. So if you haven't got your toolkit, probably worth in the background just pulling that up so that you can reference that as we get to that part of today's session. So let's quickly contract. So thanks as always for joining. I'll keep my eye on the waiting room, make sure nobody's waiting to be let into our session. But we've got 90 minutes just to kind of spend some time thinking about your professional and leadership development. As you know, everything we talk about in these calls is confidential. Sometimes there are things that are like hypersensitive. So if there is anything like that for you today, just give me the nod and I will press the pause button on the recording so it's not captured anywhere. And as we go through, there'll be a chance to kind of talk to each other, ask questions and stuff. We probably won't need a break today because we're only going for about 1 hour and 20 minutes ish. So unless we need a break, we won't take one. And this is a great community, and hopefully you all feel this kind of safe, supportive zone as we come into these sessions each month. And not too heavy on the agenda, but we have got a couple of topics I'd like to talk about today, so we will kind of stay on track. But I'll also give you the chance, depending on who else joins us, I'll kind of give us a chance just to check in on progress as well. So we may or may not use a couple of breakout rooms, depending on whether or not we get a couple more people join us this morning. And really, we're looking, lots of stuff that we've gone through over the last 12 months, some incredible content actually, and some incredible progress by each of you. Today, as I said, we'll specifically look at that succession planning topic because that's quite valuable in terms of building future organizations. And you've also got your accountability partners. So I think, I know that you know these, your partners, but just an opportunity to kind of reflect and think beyond today's session where those conversations go to continue to support each other as you work through your leadership development and your careers. I've kind of thought about an option for you at the end, which I'll talk about at the end of today's session as we wrap up and close. But really thinking about, remember, this principle of accountability is about helping you to stay on track with the actions that you're taking, the progress that you want to make, and this kind of regular review for your own kind of sense of coaching and commitment. And a great opportunity to practice, if you get the chance with each other in your accountability discussion, practice this coaching skill, because you won't know each other's businesses in as much detail as you do your own. So actually it's a great opportunity to coach people, just to coach each other on, okay, so what's happening, what's the situation, and use that, the GROW model. What is it you want as the ideal outcome? What's happened to date? What are your options? What else could you do? Okay, what will you do? Just really simple GROW, GROW. Just helps you to start to really orientate yourself to a model that's really simple and straightforward, and one that will work. So I'll invite you to continue to do that. But right back to the beginning, right back to the beginning, what is it that motivates us and motivates our teams and strengthens our organizations through leadership is this intensity and the passion that we bring to the work that we do with our teams and our business and our customers, and reminding ourselves on a regular basis, light ourselves back up, get excited again about what we're doing, and that transmits to our teams and they start to take that out to their business as well. So really simple principle, but one that's very easy to overlook. And it's kind of a bit of a gift to yourself on a regular basis, just to revisit that and press the reset button, or the reignite button, perhaps it should be. And we started our journey talking about some challenges. I won't go through these, but these were the challenges we were looking to overcome. I think we've got, from what I've seen and heard from our discussions, you've come a long way in the last 12 months. You've been able to do some incredible work with your businesses. You've made some incredible progress, and hopefully you've now got a better handle on each of these different challenges, or at least some coping strategies and techniques to handle each of these different challenges. And your Coaching Leaders Toolkit, so this workbook or series of workbooks that allows you to kind of capture your plans, structure your approach, and really think differently about how you kind of move forward from here with your business and your teams. So let's recap on the roadmap. So the first stage for us was mindset. Think about how we manage ourselves first. If we manage ourselves, then we're much more effective at managing and leading other people and teams and organizations. Then we think about building out a plan. So what are the, identify the priorities for our business. What are the things that we know are important for the business, that we know are important for us as leaders. And then how do we translate that into appropriate priorities for our teams? And we do that through a really simple structure called this Plan 2 model. Then we think about the principles of leadership. And then those 5 key responsibilities that we start to consider for ourselves, and in particular for our teams, particularly important when you think about new people coming into your organization and building up that psychological safety, the trust, the relationship, making those deposits in the emotional bank account, really thinking about how you then help that person to perform at the highest level, and then think about their growth and development. So it kind of those 5 key stages of almost kind of engagement, motivation, right the way through to growth and development. It's quite a nice way to think about enrolling your teams. And then we think about the coach model. So we start to bring in a bit of structure. We start with relationships, so strengthening relationships, making those deposits in the emotional bank accounts with our teams, but also then thinking about how we leverage those relationships once we've made the investments, because remember that's a current account, it's not a savings account. And then we think about rapport and connecting with people and on an ongoing basis, those interactions that are really important for leadership. And then our key principle of contracting, probably the kind of the principle that underpins the whole model really is this ability to create a contract, a valuable contract with each of our people. And what I've learned over the years and even recently is that you'll have to keep revisiting that contract. You have to keep going back to those founding principles, because even though people have the best intentions, they tend to drift. And even when you've had those contracting conversations, you start to see those behaviors start to slip. It's a strange phenomenon, but it is what it is. And so actually having that contract in place, revisiting the contract, can be really valuable for us and for our teams. Then we think about objectives and goals, and in particular, creating a structure around, whether it's 133, 135, but clear on the overarching goal, clear on the priority streams of activities, and then clear on the activities that deliver those streams. And that all rolls up to deliver exactly what we're looking for in the business. And then our job is to let the team do their work, do the best work. So let them take action and we become the observer of that action. There's lots of ways in which you can do that. There's tools. Sometimes the best way is just to watch, just to remind ourselves to spend some time and watch them in action. And of course, from that point of observation for us, action for our teams, we're able to then coach for change. So the second C is coach. And we think about questioning and listening, really thinking about tuning into the other person, getting curious about what's going on for them. And then we use our coaching models, and the one my go-to and a lot of coaches go to is the GROW model, which we've kind of talked about So we think about the goal, we think about reality, we think about the options, and then we think about, okay, what will you do? And really simple structure that keeps you focused on coaching and moving in the right direction. And our final stage is about, the H is heroes. So how do we think bigger for our teams and for ourselves? Think long term. What is it they're trying to achieve? What are we trying to achieve? How do we join those two things together, which really works together as part of a development process. So we've got the plan in place, but then the process of reviewing those development goals, checking in with the teams, more coaching on what they're trying to achieve and how they elevate performance continually. And then finally, our final stop today, which is succession planning, starting to think about the organization in the future. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this in the past. I've had a couple of times in my career where when I've talked to my boss about progression, his or her question to me was, okay, well, who's going to replace you? And actually starting to think about that's quite interesting. If you start to think about your own progression and succession, that can really help you strengthen your organization. You've got people that are ready at some point in the future, then you free yourself up for that future promotion if that's what you want. Not everybody wants it, so don't feel obliged to do that, but it is an interesting way to think about it, especially if your own teams are asking you the same questions. So we talked about the plan framework, we talked about the coach model. So let's have an opportunity to talk about feedback. So actions and progress to date, accountability discussions and how they're going, key challenges that you might still be working through at the moment. There might be situations with your team, there might be priorities that you need to address, and also coaching progress since our last session. We had a full day together 2 months ago, and then last month we checked in on coaching. So I'd be interested to hear how your coaching is going as well. So we're a small group this morning until other people arrive. So I'll tell you what we will do. I'll open up 2 breakout rooms and I'll join one of them. So let me just hold on, let me just pause the recording for a second. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so let's hear some feedback. I was in with Stancy and Oliver, so should we let the other group go first? Stancy and Oliver? Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, Chris, Nicola, Tim, how was your conversation? What came up for you?
It's good, really good.
He wants to go.
Tell us a bit more.
From my perspective, we were just talking about that we've recently sat down with the team and gone through the the end of the Q2 reviews. We've then gone through the process of looking at the KPIs and things for the rest of the year and also into 24, and then we've gone through the 135s as well with the team, and it's been a good process actually, just to go through and see where people are at. So we color code it as well. So if they're underachieved, it's or on target or overachieving.
Yeah. And
then identifying certain areas that people are in the red a little bit, and trying to kind of get bring them back on track. So from my perspective, that's what we were chatting about.
Right.
Yeah. And a little bit about Stancy, but we don't want to go into that.
No, I won't talk about
that. Oh, I love it. So you found that process, Chris, gives you that ability just to kind of get that clarity of, okay, where are you over delivering, where are you on track, and where are you not meeting your objectives, and how do we create a plan together to get you back on track in those areas that are slipping?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good for them as well to see that. I think it's been a really useful tool actually for them to go, you know what, I can see I'm overachieving in this area, but I'm a little bit under this, or if there's any specific issues that have come to light, that it soon identifies those, and you can change those a little bit as well. If there's something new you need to put in there that needs addressing, you can put it into the plan. So
yeah, it's good. And have you got Chris? Have you managed to get them updating you on it?
Yes, yeah. So it's all very transparent. So it's we do a certain amount of it. So we see from our perspective, and it's a conversation. Then they could challenge that and say, well, actually, no, I disagree with that. I think I have been doing this, and then it's a fluid thing. So it's a conversation. But most of the time, they're like, yeah, I agree with that, or can we put this in or take this out? Obviously, the numbers are black and white, so
Yeah.
they are what they are. But it's all the other stuff that's around that, like the self-management and the dealer management, etc. So
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll notice that there's a correlation between those people that are on track with, you know, the key activities that need to be done and the numbers. So that, you know, that, as you say, the numbers are black and white, but what drives the numbers are the key activities that you've outlined anyway, aren't they?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's good.
Do you
Thanks,
want-
Chris.
do you want-
Excellent.
Do you want me to show you one just so you can get just a view of an idea of like what we're talking about and how we do it, just really quickly?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, please.
Yeah,
That's
if,
it.
if
Great.
anyone else wants to
Yeah, definitely.
adopt this, will I be able to share?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should. Yeah.
Yeah, can you see my screen there?
I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, as we've said and joked, we have 135. So they have 3 priorities and then 5 KPIs under each one. So this
Yeah.
is what we've been doing at the quarterly review at the end of each quarter. So myself and Chris will input where we think we're at or where we know we're at, you know, depending on whether it's qualitative or quantitative. And then we'll discuss that with them. So, you know, red's not always, you know, red there. You can see in Q1 for Tyrone especially, you know, he just wasn't quite understanding how to budget for the OPEX. So then we had to have a conversation with him, went away, and then, you know, for Q2 he's on track with that. You know, he's not quite got it with forecasting yet. So, you know, we had another conversation with him about that. And especially with his dealers, by Spectrum, for instance, they're very good at giving forecasts. So hopefully by Q3, and each one of these holds a different weight. So if you look at, if I just quickly go to the signed, and then you see each one holds a weight. Oh, I don't know why I hasn't put them in there. But they're all sort of 2% each.
Okay.
Priority is 2% for each. And then they're now going, they now have to you know, they have to achieve each percent to then get their bonus. It's a nice way in of tying their bonus as well.
Yeah, that's really good.
A nice way of tying in.
So it's not, bonus isn't just about hitting numbers. It's about
Exactly.
delivering on the KPIs and the key activities that you know will drive the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. Stats, Chris, have you got a blank template of one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you mind sharing that with the group? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And we would never have done this if it wasn't for this course. You know,
Yeah.
we knew we had to find a way to you know, review more effectively, but we wouldn't have had this unless being on here.
Yeah.
And they've all fed back, by the way, that they really love it as well. They're like, it's very clear, it's concise, it tells us exactly what we need to do for the year, where we need to focus, and where we're at, and that's been the really positive feedback from the team. Actually.
Yeah, excellent.
Mm.
I love the way you've adopted that and adapted it as well to meet your business needs. It's brilliant. I actually quite enjoy working through a copy, as sad as that sounds. I quite enjoy working through it and kind of seeing how you've done the weighting and stuff. I really like that. Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Stance. I'm sure the group will appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
Matt's joined us as well. Matt, good morning.
Hi, Matt.
Alright.
How are you doing, Matt?
All right, not so bad yourselves.
Very well, thanks. Yeah, very well.
Good,
Very
thanks.
well. Matt, we've just had a breakout and kind of discussed progress so far, kind of update on what we've been working on with our teams and the businesses. Chris was just sharing that he's reviewing the 135s. It's gone really well. It's helping him to course correct and give his team some feedback and coaching and keep them on track, which is really useful. Yeah.
So it was interesting just to catch the end of that and see how these guys have weighted certain activities. That was quite interesting because, yeah, I'm just thinking about that for certain, because we're trying to look at the moment to put MBOs in place for our team, just because a lot of them are like, you know, all they're fixated on is a number and sales number and not all the activities that go around supporting that. So that's what we're trying to kind of think about at the moment, but what they look like in terms of, are these MBOs actually, you know, activities they can do, or are they just part of their everyday day job, you know, sort of thing. So
yeah, well, I'm sure that if Chris and Stance are okay to share a blank plan, I'm sure that'll give you some ideas, Matt, about what could constitute those MBOs. Yeah, very good. So thanks, Chris. Nicola, Tim, how about you? What came up for you in that conversation?
Well, it's just been, I've been using all of what you've taught us over the past year, and it all seems to have come together in a few weeks. Really, we've started with the Bidentine XP launch,
Yeah.
and now got an EMEA competition going. So even in the UK, we've got a small team. They're kind of neck and neck, and they are doing well. But then you put them in the bigger picture and the mid-table. So started doing field visits, and we were talking about how to keep storm and how to use all your coaching skills with them. But it did open my eyes to KPIs that weren't being done, like 3 quality calls, interviews per day with dentists minimum. It opened my eyes to journey planning. People have just drifted completely off. So we've been doing that coaching call again, getting them back in. And going over to the MEE meeting last week in Istanbul, it really did show with the numbers of calls, the volume of calls basically that we're doing. We're just, providing a higher volume of sales, which is, it's not rocket science. So now reviewing, we've got new core values that were brought out for the company as well. So I'm doing a new contracting with the team on that too. And I've been using the contracting in field visits as well by sitting down first and foremost with them and saying, look, today's all about them. I'm here to help if you need me. How would you like me to play that? So, if you get stuck, are you going to look at me in a certain way? Or, if you want me to help you in a certain way, then just let me know. And challenging them as well. How do they want me to challenge them? Because I think a few of them do need challenging. And it was just a really good day. We had a good rapport, came away with lots of things. I've been using your template for the in-field visits as well. But that's worked really well. And yeah, it's kind of, the new people are going to be starting soon. We're on second interviews next week. So, well, in fact, this Thursday. So hopefully by the sales meeting in September, we'll be implementing absolutely everything.
Yeah. So how many new people are you bringing on board, Nicola?
3, I think.
3. Oh wow, God, that's a big increase, isn't it?
Well, there's definitely going to be 2 straight away. One at the end of the year, and then another one in January. So
Wow.
that's into 2024 budget. So yeah, it's really going in the right direction now.
Well done. That's super. Everything you just described, Nicola, sounds like you're completely on track. I know there's always some work to do.
There's been some hiccups, but yeah, it's really helped everything. And I think we're implementing that 135 that Stancy and Chris have got. I think, with the traffic light system is really good.
Yeah.
So we have weighted bonuses anyway, so that just keeps them on track rather than just doing a monthly report that some of them need chasing up on.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. And it's interesting what you said, Nicola, about getting closer to people. It's interesting because you make this, I've had this myself in the past, where you make this assumption that everyone's doing what you need them to do, and then you spend some time with them and you think, oh God, they're not. They're actually quite a way off where I thought they were. But the only way to get that visibility is to spend that time in the field with them and having, quality time where you observe, it's so valuable. Yeah.
Fascinating. Really fascinating as well. I mean, we're both saying it's really hard not to speak during those calls.
Yeah. But equally important not to speak in those calls.
But I have to nip myself when I'm just about to speak, so I don't.
Nicola, that's an interesting point, because I've got like a couple of my guys are really quite junior, and one of the guys he's going to be really good, but I've just got to let him get his miles underneath him. But a couple of times in a call last week, I jumped in and kind of took over a little bit, and then I was pinging him a chat saying, I'm so sorry, it's just habit. I've got to try and back off and let you kind of do it.
We're all human at the end of the day, aren't we?
Yeah, you are human, but you know what, it's that awareness. At least you know you're doing it. Previously you wouldn't have even known you were doing it.
So today I've literally stayed silent as he's ran this demo, and I'm just like going, I'm not doing anything. I'm just, if you need me, I'll chip in, but otherwise I'm just sitting and listening. So but that's that understanding, like you said, about having that understanding before you go into that. So he's not sitting there going, well, why is Matt not chipping in or whatever?
The contracting and agreement on that is really important. Yeah, very good. Thanks, Nicola. Thank you, Matt. Tim, how about you? What about your?
Yeah, I mean, internally, things are going pretty smooth at the moment. So the biggest challenges at the moment are management of distributors, really, because we've got quite a few distributors, and in some territories, we have some distributors that want to go towards an exclusive contract.
Yeah.
Which we've on paper kind of agreed to. So we just need to firm up kind of MOQs and then the whole communication with the other distributors that will be letting go. So we've got some difficult conversations coming up, but a lot of the principals that work internally work equally as well with distributors, although they don't report to me in terms of their business is separate to ours, but you can kind of cherry pick some of the tools and the principles and apply them equally as well to external teams that you have some sort of responsibility to. So but not looking forward to the conversations with the distributors we're letting go, but it's a necessary evil. It has to happen, and it's good to practice these sorts of things, isn't it? Difficult confrontational conversations. It's nature of the beast, unfortunately.
It's how you grow. It is how you grow. I was with Stancy and Chris and their team last week, and they had doing some distributor coaching and training, and it was quite interesting, wasn't it? Some of the conversations with your distributors about some of the key strategic decisions you've made with other distributors, but actually they seem, whilst there was a bit of banter about it, actually they understand, really, don't they? And they do. I know they give you a bit of grief about it, but actually they seem to. I think deep down they're like, do you know what? We get it. It's a commercial decision.
And I'm saying this to Tim as well. It's something that we are going to look at towards the end of the year and implement next year. A bit of a culling of some of our dealers as well. So it'd be interesting to get Tim's feedback on when he's gone through this process on how that went down and how he approached it. So it'd be interesting. Sorry to say something.
I was going to say, I'll certainly feedback, and I'll share the kind of execution plan, if you like, of how I'm going to sort of implement this and how it's going to be communicated, and the data that we're going to share with the distributors that we're getting rid of, and bringing in the commercial director as part of the conversation to make it a business decision rather than me being a dick and just getting rid of them just because I don't like them or whatever. It's to try and get away from me being the point of attack, if you like. And this is the reason we're doing it. Here's the evidence to support why we're doing it. This aligns to our company strategy. Here's the data for the last 3 years of sales, and make it crystal clear why we're doing it and evidence what we're doing, basically. And then hopefully not too uncomfortable once we've done that. But there's going to be some fallout. We've identified the probable risks associated with doing this, and we've tried to mitigate those as best we can.
Okay, it's good. One other thing to consider there, Tim, if you can also make it about the customer and the market. So your distributor, because if what they hear is, if they don't hear something that's relative to them, because right now all they're going to hear is you want to work with our competition, you've made a commercial decision on your terms, they might be like, well, what about us? If you can make it also about the customer, I think that really adds strength to your positioning. But these difficult decisions, right? Difficult conversations, they're part of what we do in these types of businesses, in leadership roles. It's really important that we're able to do it. So good luck, Tim. Good luck with those.
Tim, have you like drafted a letter yet that you're going to be sending? Because I know Chris said we're going to be pulling next year, and some of us sort of bigger accounts will be, but I'm going to start. I looked at a spreadsheet yesterday of some customers who've done like sweet FA for the last 5 years, and they just get spares, and actually like they've never had training, or certainly not in my time in the business. So they're going, and there's no I'm literally not even having conversations with them. They're going to be getting a letter very, very soon. So have you got a draft letter done already that I could maybe have a little peek at?
No, I've not drafted anything yet. It's kind of just planning phase at the moment, and then we're going to start formalizing it over the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. All right, I'll draft a letter and I can let you
Well,
have a little look
that's
at mine
one,
then.
you draft, swap.
Yeah, it's actually on my to-do list for this week, actually, because I was so pissed off when I looked at that spreadsheet yesterday. I'm like, we've got 200 accounts and we actively deal with probably 30 of them. This is just ridiculous. And it's just, it just doesn't look good on the accounts that actually really invest in driving our products.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting about those numbers, Stance? You're almost at the perfect 80-20 there, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah,
We looked at it the other month,
totally.
and it was the top 10 or 15 dealers bring in over 80, maybe even 90% of our overall revenue. And it's it was quite interesting looking at the stats, actually.
Yeah. Is it because you make this assumption that the more representation you've got, the more impact you'll have in the market? But sometimes it has a dilutive effect, doesn't it?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
actually coming back to let's just support the core of people who are highly engaged and remove those that aren't. That's a completely different strategy. It probably will give you additional growth.
I think we've gone through a bit of a
something.
we've gone through a bit of a transition as well. I think, maybe when all those dealers were taken on years ago, it was about kind of getting your name into the market and things like that. I think we're a lot more mature now. I think we've got our name firmly established in the markets. Now we can scale back now. And I think it's just a natural thing that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right, Chris. Yeah, I think you're right. And something Stancy said there that's really important, could be useful for you, Tim, is thinking about the dealers' engagement. How active are they in training their teams, collaborating and working with you? It's a bit like, the 135 is about, you've got the result at the top and then you've got the key leading metrics and activities. Thinking about that for your dealers as well. What are the key leading metrics and indicators that they're committed and driving the business? If they're not in place, it's a great way to start to say to them, look, we can only afford to work with those people that are highly engaged, highly committed, are driving a proactive presence in the market for us. And that becomes part of the argument around why you're making some of the decisions you are. Yeah, very, very good. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Stance. And Stancy and Oliver, we had an interesting discussion, didn't we? I don't know if you want to share any of that, Stancy and or Oliver.
Do you want to go? Do you go first and then? I don't mind taking it.
Yeah, you go first.
Cool. So we were working on the past month, probably a bit of what we're going to go into in a minute of kind of the succession planning, bringing one of our guys up to handle a lot more of the client role. So at the moment, he's just kind of a video editor handling the work that we pass down, but he's been taking a lot more of the active kind of working with the clients, kind of outbound kind of bits. And then also trying to put in a plan for the future because I'm having another baby in October. So
yeah, congratulations, Oliver. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. So obviously I'm going to be off for a bit and we're going to look to get another person in as well to kind of handle a more sales role. So just need to kind of figure out what that looks like, how that's all going to work. And yeah, so that's kind of a busy next few months ahead, but no, all good.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And we'll look to, we talked about that, Oliver. There was some stuff hopefully that we cover in the next part of this session that will be useful.
Yes.
And I mean, thinking about, what we've talked about already today, the 135 structure, when you get a new person coming and when you're promoting people in the organization, getting them to feel clear on what does that next role look like, what are the key objectives, what are the KPIs that they put in place can be really valuable. Then even if they're learning the ropes, actually, as long as they're following a structure, it can be really useful for them just to kind of have something to lean back on.
That's the thing. So we use the 135 structure with our guys at the moment.
Yeah.
But because of the work they do, there's not really much we can put on in terms of KPIs.
Yeah.
So in terms of like editing a video, is it sufficient quality and was it done in a good time?
Yeah.
But in terms of kind of client management, and especially when it comes to sales, that's going to come into its own in terms of managing all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Yeah, it's good. Thanks, Oliver. Stance.
Yeah, we talked about Martin, Chris, and just, do you get to a point where we've just got somebody who buries his head in the sand. So when he's super busy and customers want something from him, rather than, if he's not in a position that he can do it immediately, he just doesn't do it at all. He just buries his head in the sand instead of getting back and saying, I'll come back to you, or I'm going to refer you to one of my colleagues to help. And yeah, just having that conversation, this guy's already got a verbal warning, and it's, do we continue down that disciplinary route, or just realize that it's just ingrained in him? He needs like a certain amount of sort of micromanagement, and there's ways that we can do that without just directly micromanaging him, and look at the positives that he brings to the business, and just realize that this is the way he is, and we've just got to constantly be at him and constantly coach him, basically. But then Justin made a valid point of, well, actually, is there somebody better out there who could fulfill that role better? And I never really, because I was so focused thinking about how we can improve him, I didn't really think actually maybe there is somebody better out there. So I think the right thing to do, and it's great because we've just done his Q2 KPI review. So we're in a brilliant position. So we've had that conversation with him again. He's got red on those points, on those KPIs. So the next one, say, well, nothing's improved. This is over three-quarters of a year now. So we're going to have to implement another disciplinary action. And I think, yeah, it's.
I think it's.
Go on, Matt.
I think it's a struggle because there's an element of everybody works differently. They have their own nuances, their own ways and methodology.
Yeah.
But it's finding the right balance between saying, well, do we just accept that, or do we say, actually, no, that isn't supporting our business. They're not the right cultural fit, or I don't know, ethical fit, or whatever. Because I spoke to, Iram had this problem with this chap that she's been having an ongoing problem with one of these guys in her team. She finally got rid of him. I spoke to her last week. She finally got rid of him. And all of a sudden, but she's also got rid of another guy who was relatively new, because he just wasn't, she said he was so aggressive internally and with customers, it just wasn't going to fit. She said, and we just had to make that decision that he's never going to change his personality or never change his way of working. And that's going to have more detrimental effect on what they're doing than trying to get him to say, look, you've got to calm it down, you've got to do this, you've got to do the other and stuff.
I mean, I suppose that's a culture fit, isn't it? And we also discussed, by the way, this as well in our breakout room, and I think it is one of those ones. It's like, he is such a lovely guy, so there's no problem with the culture. Everyone loves him and all the rest of it, but it does follow this recurring cycle where when he starts getting busy, like Stan said, things start falling off the wagon, and we've explained to him the impact it has on the wider team and on customers. And I think you've got to kind of, I'm probably with Justin on this, where you've got, although he's a great guy, you've got to think of the business, and do you make compensation for someone that just because they're crap at doing the sort of time management thing, or do they need to up their game? And I think that, and there's also another element which I'll just chat to the guys about is, Stan's a great boss and she goes above and beyond for everyone. And me coming into the business, I start seeing little piss takes a little bit with that. I see how much she does above and beyond for everybody. And when I sort of see individuals not being respectful back by just simply doing the job, it sort of irritates me as well, because I just don't like that in the business, So.
Could the guy argue that, when you say gets busy, things start falling off the wagon? Could he argue that he's overworked and or is it just purely down to time management?
Bad management.
Time management. Yeah.
It comes down to company standards, doesn't it? You can always get one person who's 5 minutes late or 15 minutes late. That's fine in the personal time, but if the company standards there and they know what they've got to adhere to, then you can't do that. Like you said before, they're letting everything down, aren't they?
Yeah.
We've put support processes in place, by the way, that and we've been very, very clear, is if this starts happening, see the early signs and just call on us, and you're fully 100% fully supported.
Yeah, it's interesting because during COVID, we introduced a work anywhere policy. So we can work from home. Anybody that was normally office based can work from home as long as they're accessible to a local office, etc. And recently, we've just had a communication by the CEO to say his work anywhere policy is not a work anytime policy. because he was starting to see people put in like regular recurring appointments, like, you know, taking an hour out to go do something with the kids every afternoon from 2 till 3. And he said, like, these are core business hours. From 8 till 5, we expect you to be available. Yeah, the odd appointment here and there, that like a doctor's appointment or something. Yeah, it's understandable, but not a regular block out every day or every other day. Because you feel like, oh, I'm working from home now, I'll just catch up and do 2 hours in the evening. Well, that's no good if your customers aren't working at 9 o'clock at night. So it's interesting how that's been abused a little bit, and it's had to be reined back in.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of scope creep, isn't it? People
Yeah.
take one thing and think, oh, it means something else, and everybody interprets things differently. And sometimes you have to kind of almost do that recalibration so that people understand what's expected. And there will be those people from time to time who just can't seem to stay on track. And you know, the interesting thing that I've always found is that it's stressful for them, it's stressful for you, and sometimes one of the options is that they have to find something else, you know, and it doesn't always have to be that way, but these are some of the tougher decisions that, you know, are difficult for us, difficult for them. But the other thing I was saying to Stance in the room was, I've managed both situations in the past where you continually bring someone back on track and they improve, and then they dip, and then they improve, and they dip, and you kind of constantly having to do that. And then I've also taken the tough decisions where you exit somebody, and without fail, every single time when I've done that, that person has circled back to me at some point in the future and said it was the right decision. Actually, I've found something that's much more of a fit for me. I'm much happier. There's less stress, and I've found someone to replace them that is absolutely on it, because you take a little bit longer to recruit, you look for those early signs, you make sure the onboarding's right, you do the contracting, you coach them, and all of a sudden you've got someone in 6 to 12 months absolutely knocking it out of the park, and you think, God, that's such a good decision. But there's a process you have to go through that's a bit tricky, you know. There's this, I might have said it on a previous session, but you know, they say change is really tough at the start, it's messy in the middle and beautiful at the end, right? That's change. But you've got to get through the tough at the start and the messy in the middle, and then it's beautiful in the end. But you've got to get to that. It takes a bit of time to get to that point. But knowing that that's where it ends up can be quite useful as you go through those more difficult periods.
I remember going on a field visit once, and one of the team who is not with us now, I walked in on this lunch and learn that she was doing, and her son sat there in his football kit.
What, with her?
Yeah, she took him out because it was school holiday. She didn't have anyone to look after him, and because she'd done that so often, when I came, she just thought it was normal. So she was sent home, and she got a written warning because that was disgraceful. And she was feeding him with the sandwiches that were on the company expenses as well.
Wow, God. It just goes to show different. Someone said standards earlier. It was you, Matt, wasn't it? Or was it you, Nicholas? About company standards. It is about standards. Okay, Matt, anything from you before we go on to talk about succession planning?
No, nothing in particular. Just the fact that we did QBRs with our team a couple of weeks ago. First time we've done it with our new org structure, and it was really good. We just took it away from specifically looking at the numbers, because that's something we do on a pipeline review anyway. And we just said we're not going to get everybody in a room just to rip everybody's numbers individually. This was more about learning lessons, sharing learnings, expectations. And what Martijn and I, the other guy, the sales manager that's leading Europe, we both said that what we want to do is do a bit of what we talked about in the course, is setting that core foundation of expectation, what we expect, and then we'll measure that again and review it on a quarterly basis. So that was really well received, because the team kind of felt like they'd had a bit more kind of a leveling.
Yeah, good. So again, you're focusing on, you know, key activities and key metrics that drive the numbers, not just the numbers. That's so important to make that shift.
Yeah, and I've got my first set of performance reviews to do on Thursday, but I've only had the team since April. And so I've looked at historical, I've asked for the HR for the historical documents. Some of my guys haven't had a performance review in 2 years. They've just been left. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you know, it's like, so again, we're starting from nothing.
Yeah. Well, do you know what though, Matt? I'm sure they'll be very appreciative of it, because at least now you set the course and a rhythm going forward, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, it's good. Good. Well, good luck with those as well, Matt. Excellent. Any more before we cover our kind of succession planning? No, okay, good. Okay, excellent. Thanks, everybody. Great conversation, as always. So, the kind of succession planning sits in our final stage. We've got this heroes in the making, and I don't know if anybody's heard of Peter Drucker. He's this management consultant from the US. He was very, very well known, and he talked about a kind of a lot of business optimization and improvement. And I like this quote from him: long range planning does not deal with future decisions, but with the future of present decisions. So it's about decisions now about the future. And you can change your mind on those decisions, but it is about just starting to think about the future and think about it now and make your plans as you kind of formulate them. So in terms of succession planning, you know, the future of your business, our businesses, rely on the capability, but also the future potential of our teams. And when we start to understand the current and future capability combined with their career ambitions, that kind of creates some vitality in the business. So you've got a couple of things going on here. We've talked about development planning in the last session and having that time with your team. And you're going to have, you know, a number of your team that are solid performers, want to stay where they are and just keep getting better and better. Absolutely brilliant, because they're your kind of linchpins for the key roles in the organization. But then you're also going to have conversations with people that have some ambition and want to see that opportunity to progress. And that's where you start to think about connecting the dots between them, their potential, and your future organization. And then as you have a plan, as you start to map out a plan, you get the opportunity, if you want to discuss it and share it with key people. So they start to build a bridge between where they are now and where they could be in the future, and their plans start to join up with your plans. So depending on the size of your organization, depends on how much of this you want to adopt, but as a structure, it can be quite useful. So how do you kind of start to succession plan? You're already doing this, okay, but having conversations with each of your team, thinking about strengths and development areas, which is really useful for them and for you. You're doing that through your 133, 135 performance review process as well. And then start to talk about future ambitions. And as I say, some people are going to say, you know, don't worry about it. I'm quite happy where I am. That's great, because we need key contributors in each of those roles that will be there for long term. It's kind of creates the foundation for the organization. But you're also going to have people who say, actually, I'll be interested in, you know, expanding into different areas, different responsibilities. And so once you've had those conversations with each of your team, you get an understanding of who has that potential, who's performing, and who has and what are the potential future positions they might be interested in. And then you can start to map out the key roles in your business, and then you can overlay your team against those key roles and start to think, this is the way that I was taught to do it, kind of think, right, you think about 3 timeframes. One is now, who's ready now. Second is who will be ready in a year. And then third is who'll be ready potentially 3 years out. Okay, so now 1 year, 3 years. And then consider, as you start to map them out, what the actions needed to support their development in the future and support your plan, or your combined plan with them. And in your succession, in your toolkit, there's this succession planning tab where there's this framework. Now, you may or may not have had the chance to look at it. But what it allows you to do is start to map out your organization and what these boxes do. So you actually update this box. You say, right, what's the role? What's the name of the person in the role right now? And when did they start, and how long have they been in the role? Okay, so that's your existing role today. So if it was me, you know, so it would be, you know, managing director Justin Lee, date started, you know, April 2018. It's been in this role 5 years. Okay, and then what you start to map is, okay, who potentially could be a successor in the future, and you go, so you then say, right, who's ready now? Who's ready potentially to ready now between now and 1 year? Okay, so who could be either ready now or ready in about a year? And then beyond that, in the bottom here, you might say, okay, who's ready potentially between 1 and 3 years from now? So they're your timeframes. And you won't have all of the people, you won't necessarily have people in all of these boxes. In larger organizations, you may, but in smaller organizations, you might find that actually you just got one name here, one name here. You might just have one name in one of the boxes. And then you just start to map out key roles. So you might look at, your role, you might look at other managers' roles, you might look at key specialist roles in your business, and you might even start to, depending on your network, you might even start to put in names of people that you know that aren't even in your business. So you'd start to map out, okay, who could potentially help support our organization in the future? You might look at different geographies, you might look at people who are looking for career changes, but it could be a really useful way to just start to bring to your mind a plan for your organization that gives you some confidence about where you are in terms of that future succession. But equally, the other thing that it's useful for is to spot the gaps. So you might say, you know what, one of our key roles, if you've got like a key technical role in your business, and you know that it's kind of supports a lot of customers, it supports your team, and you might have someone that's at risk and you have nobody in the pipeline in the future, it brings it to your attention so you can start to go, we need some kind of contingency plan for that role if at some point it happens. And it is something you can start to map out and discuss, one as a leadership team, but then two, potentially with your individuals in your teams if you feel comfortable sharing, some of the information. But what you will, I think what you'll find as you start to work through this is it just gives you that clarity over, right, where are we within our organization? What does future succession look like? And how do we start to fill in some of the gaps that might be present for us as we review our team? So that is that's the succession planning tool. That's the principles and the tool. Let me just press the pause on the sharing on that and just get your feedback. What do we think? What were you thinking as I went through that?
I think if we build the organisation accepted on, we'll be able to do that, but I find that difficult at the moment because we haven't got enough people to sort of start filling different roles.
Yeah. You don't have the numbers in the team yet to be able to fill the succession plan. Yeah.
But I definitely
Sorry, Stan,
Yeah, probably sort of the same for us, really. Yeah, we just not. Yeah, we just don't have enough people.
It's interesting.
and enough roles to fill, actually. There's only three management roles within our business that we could absolutely, I could fill that out easily for me and Chris, for instance. So like, Chris, my role, someone in a Chris's role, but that would be it.
Yeah.
What it does from my perspective is it highlights gaps in the resilience, because we're a very lean organization. Multiple people wear more than one hat and cover more than one sort of job role. And if you do get people moving up, suddenly you've got there aren't people to be brought up. So I think it's really good to highlight the lack of resilience, particularly in smaller organizations like the one I work for. Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well, because you get some people who've got these ideas above their station and they think they're, I'm not naturally, I've been here the longest, or I've been, the criterion. It's when you look at it and kind of rank people, actually, it's quite interesting. They go, actually, that person here that's been a lot shorter time, got less knowledge, actually is probably going to be a better equipped to do that role in the long run. And that's then trying to, have those discussions with people. Because what I don't want to get in a situation, if anybody's been in that situation, where you've got somebody in your team that thinks they want to start pushing, and you don't address it early enough to say, well, there's only one way you're going to get that is if you need to do A, B, C, and D. And if you don't do those, guess what? You're going to stay where you are. Yeah.
And you directly linked there, Matt, this succession plan with development planning. You're absolutely right to do that. It's, all these things start to come together. are they performing in their current role? You know, can you see, you know, a sea of greens or ambers if you've got a 135? Are they working on the development plan? You'll see the PD, there's a little
PD piece.
is the PDP in place, because that used to be a big flag for us. If you've got someone who's saying, well, I want to be in that job, and we say, well, what's in your personal development plan? And they say, well, they stall because they haven't been working on their personal development. If you're not developing yourself, then how are you going to be ready for that future role? You've got to be prioritizing time learning about the new skills required for that next position. And you can also think about this as increased responsibilities. So do you have people in your team who want some increased responsibility for maybe for another part of the portfolio, maybe for a key customer, maybe for a different element of the business? You know, they're starting to think about, well, I'd like to take responsibility for X, Y, or Z. So whilst these are roles, you could also talk about some of the key responsibilities. Actually, have we got, you know, the full portfolio? Have we got experts for the full portfolio covered? Have we got, you know, representation for, you know, whether it's managing CRM? So in a lot of the companies I've worked for, we had it like what they call them extended roles, where one of the team would take additional responsibility for CRM, for marketing communications, for, you know, sales excellence, for social media management, that kind of thing. So you start to get people in the team picking up additional responsibilities that help the organization. You can map those out as responsibilities if you wanted to. So you start to think, okay, let's make sure that all of the different elements of, you know, business process are covered as part of our team's responsibilities. There's lots of ways in which you can adapt and flex the tool if it's useful for you. I mean, I don't want it to be it's not an administrative exercise. It really should be a valuable exercise for the business. So I'll encourage you to have a work through that document, talk to your accountability partners about what does that look like, and updating it. And starting to, and if there are other parts of your organization you think would be useful to share that, you might want to go upwards, because I don't know whether those kind of tools exist in your, you know, in your parent organizations, or, you know, if you're international in your European organizations or international. But feel free to share this as a principle, because it could be useful as you think about the broader organization that you're working in as well. Okay, sound okay?
Yep.
Useful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So we in our final 5 to 10 minutes, let's just quickly I'll give you a chance to think about key takeaways, your key takeaways. And I'd really like to encourage you to maintain your accountability partners and use that as an opportunity to kind of have someone outside of your organization to bounce ideas off, to check in with, and to hopefully give you that, you know, this peer accountability, but external to your organization. So if you can, check in with your accountability partner, have this continuing conversation about key actions that you're taking, progress that you want to make, and if you can, stay in touch for a regular review. I think that'd be really useful. You decide for yourselves that obviously it's got to work for you and for your accountability partner as well. So I found this quote online this week. I thought I like that. Find a group of people who challenge and inspire you, spend a lot of time with them, and it will change your life. So hopefully we've made a bit of a change to each other's lives over the last 12 months. I'd love to think we have. Certainly I've had a brilliant time with this group. And you'll remember when I saw you, when we met, I should say, for the first time together as a team last July, a year ago, at the Odeon head office in London. And I said, this is something I've been working to create a long time, and it felt like quite surreal when we started it. But the last 12 months, I've absolutely had a ball and loved your engagement, loved seeing the progress, loved being part of the progress of this group together. So thank you all so much. I've honestly, it's been everything I could have imagined. And one thing before I forget, on Saturday morning, this book arrived.
Oh,
So this is the book of the program. So you guys were ahead of your time because you did the program before book. So I have a copy for each of you. So if you could just drop me a quick email with the best address to send it to. If that's your home address or the business address. Chris and Stance, I'll drop yours in because I'll be passing your office quite a bit, so I'll drop your copies in. But so the book is available. I'd love your feedback on it as well. So I'd love to send you all a signed copy. Let me know if you don't want me to sign it, but I will sign it because it does, as I've said to you before, I'm sure it does reduce the value.
Well, I was going to say, it depends if it increases the resale value, then I'll.
No chance. No chance. No, unless you can find someone called Matt who wants it, you're in a really tight place. You're never going to be able to resell it. But
I just wanted to say, from my perspective, Justin, obviously I started out on this course wanting to get into a leadership role. I knew that I had to be a bit proactive to kind of put my head out there and above the trenches if I was going to do that. So this has effectively helped me get promoted. So I appreciate that. Also, obviously, I think the group that we've had have been really good, because these things don't work unless the people that are involved in it actually speak up and are interactive and have a conversation. So that's been really good.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant for me to see, because I've worked for mostly large organizations, to see how some smaller organizations have to operate and be a little bit more agile and adapt. Like, for example, when we did the contracting, Stancy and Chris literally had done that within like a week or something. It was like, wow, to see how, companies can kind of adapt to that sort of stuff. So that's been really good. And I have built I would class quite a good friendship with Iram outside of the program. The fact that we can have a conversation, probably spend the first 20 minutes chatting about each other's families and whatever before we actually go, shit, we better talk about some work stuff before. So that for me has been like excellent. So I'm grateful to everybody on the group. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's me too. It's been a brilliant group, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant group. And I want to so let me share something with you so I've been thinking, what could we do for next steps? So let me position this with you today and then take it away, think about it, and come back to me if you think it's useful. So what would we do? So I was thinking we'll take the summer off, and then potentially starting September, we could run a series of monthly workshops ongoing, like these workshops, 90 minutes on Zoom, and we'd record them. We would recap on key principles and content where appropriate. Obviously continue this community, this group, and coach on the priorities and challenges. So as they come up, give you an opportunity, if it's recruitment, if it's performance management, if it's we need to reset on expectations, we need to recontract, whatever it is, we can use that as a vehicle to pick those conversations up and priorities. And so we wouldn't start till September. And I was thinking of a kind of monthly fee. So first thing in my mind was £99 plus VAT per month, which makes it 1188 per year per person plus VAT. And that would give us this opportunity to continue the course. So I'll send you these slides and I'll drop that into an email to you as well. Don't feel you need to decide straight away. And then if it's useful, if you think it's something you want to continue, then I love to keep it going. And then as I'm enrolling a new group, hopefully starting next month. If you know anybody that you think would be useful for that group, I'd love an introduction. I'm still building that cohort as we speak. So if there is anybody additional, whether they're in your business or your network, and you think, yeah, do you know what, I think they'd be up for that, I'd be very grateful for an introduction.
Maybe if you've got if you've got like a flyer for the next course, if you could bounce it like a one-page PDF, and then we can flick that round to some of the dealers and things like that, because there might be some management in there that might want to come on it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Chris, that'd be great. Yeah,
no worries.
I've got a deck that talks about it. I'm sure I could pull that together into a smaller document. But yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thank you, everybody. And so final stop before we finish. Any more before we wrap up?
A big thank you from me to you, Justin, and to the rest of the group. It would be really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Same. Thank you very much.
It's been great.
I hope we can all keep in contact. We've got that WhatsApp group anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, but that's the other thing. We've got the WhatsApp group, so we can keep in contact. Come back, have a think about the September continuation. If it's something that you think is useful, just drop me a message, and then as you all do that, I will let you know whether or not it's something we pursue in September onwards. But I will send you the slides from today. I'll send you the recording, And then have a fantastic summer, everybody. I'll be in touch with you individually anyway, and hopefully we'll get a chance to regroup in September. But I'll keep you posted on progress.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right,
Thanks, Justin.
Sounds good.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Guys.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Have a great
Bye,
rest of the day.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Take
Bye.
care,
Bye.
Good
everyone.
one.
See you. Thanks. Bye.